Welcome back to Jersey Matters. We are joined by Congressman Leonard Lance, Republican from the 7th Congressional District in New Jersey. We've been talking mostly about world affairs. I want to bring it back to New Jersey and health matters. There is a heroin crisis, as you know, that's hit New Jersey as hard as any state, maybe harder than most. And people are looking to the government for some answers. I know most of this is covered by the state and local government. What is the federal responsibility?
First of all, I want to compliment Governor Christie because he certainly has been involved in this terrible crisis, as has his administration, the state attorney general, and in New Jersey the governor appoints the attorney general. It's not an elected position in New Jersey, and so I give him a lot of credit. Regarding the federal government, we are involved with funding to some extent, the National Institutes of Health, and major legislation was passed last year, 21st Century Cures, in a completely bipartisan manner. I think it was the most important single piece of legislation in the 114th Congress. And so we have a role to play in this with the National Institutes of Health, with other funding. But as you point out, Larry, this is also an extremely important issue for state governments across the country and for county and municipal governments as well.
Is it time for them to step it up even more to at least put some more focus on this heroin crisis and with a drug czar? And if there was a drug czar, would you like to see Chris Christie?
I think he would be excellent. I also have confidence in this area with the new Secretary of Health and Human Services, Dr. Tom Price. I know Tom relatively well. He and I were colleagues in the House of Representatives, and I think that President Trump has chosen well in making Dr. Price, a medical doctor, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and I know this is high on his agenda.
Let's talk about this bill that you've introduced that cracks down on counterfeit drugs. Why is that important?
Because we have too many counterfeit drugs in this country, and our penalties have not been strong enough, and this beefs up that situation. And we have to be very careful in this country because sometimes there are counterfeit drugs, particularly from other regions of the world, and in particular from Asia. And the regimen in other parts of the world is not as strict as it is here.
Give me an example of what happens with counterfeit drugs. I think people hear the issue and don't realize how damaging it can be when counterfeit drugs come into the market.
They don't have the efficacy they purport to have, and this could be a life-challenging situation. And if you're on a medicine, you want to make sure that the ingredients are as prescribed. And of course, everyone understands how horrible it would be if you take a medicine that doesn't have the ingredients it's supposed to have.
I want to end with talking about infrastructure, because one of Donald Trump's promises was to put forward an infrastructure bill, a massive infrastructure bill that some of the Republicans balked at and said it would just be too expensive. It seemed like he had more Democratic support than Republican support. Yet it's extremely important to New Jersey, who had to raise their gas tax a while back just to fix some of the bridges. How do you feel about it? Would you like to see him push this, and are you disappointed he hasn't yet?
I think it may relate to how we appropriate the funds, where we get the funding for an infrastructure bill. I favor an infrastructure bill. I think the funding may come from tax reform, and so those two issues might have to come to the floor together. Regarding infrastructure here in this region of the country, I think it's extremely important to build a gateway tunnel between New Jersey and New York. And I think this is the responsibility of the two states, of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and of the federal government, all working in conjunction. It will take some time to build the Gateway Tunnel, and we put some funds in the continuing resolution that has funded the government for the remainder of this fiscal year in that regard. But this is a long-term project that may take as long as a decade.
Well, sir, as always, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Congressman Leonard Lance from the 7th Congressional District in New Jersey. We'll be right back.